work out, like let's say at night, you might be able to do that because you're still going to burn off that energy that you're putting in your storage. But if you're not, what you're doing is, like as I said before, the complex carb breaks down and then becomes sugar and it just stores in your system. So really you should give yourself a cutoff for when you're going to eat those browns, those pastas, those breads, those rices, all those different things, so that you're able to effectively monitor when you're using that energy. Okay? Then dinner usually should consist of a larger protein and a fibrous carb. So dinner should consist of chicken or fish with a certain type of vegetable. And one thing that I do recommend in between the meals is some sort of protein shake or something like that. Part of the reason why it's really good is because it's quick and it's on the go, and it can count as a meal. You get the type of calories that you would need for a meal. Okay? So that's pretty much all I had. I don't know if anybody has any questions pertaining to what I went over or what we discussed. I'd like to answer any questions at this time. Which question?
Okay, as far as the proteins go, protein type powders or whatever that I purchased from the health food store does not work well with me. For instance, I very easily develop urinary tract infections and stuff like that. And I know you're supposed to drink a lot of water with it, but even in doing so, it's such a problem for me until I just had to just eliminate it altogether. Is there some type of other means of protein? I mean, you can only eat so many egg whites, you know.
They actually have, part of it could depend on, are you lactose intolerant?
I think the older I get, yeah, the more. It wasn't always the way, but.
One could be the portion size that you're using. Typically, when they make these protein shakes, for example, I have a huge jug of it where it says you use 3 scoops. I wouldn't recommend that for anybody else who's just trying to take it as a meal supplement. I'd say maybe 1 scoop, a half a scoop. So decreasing the amount of protein to water ratio. The other thing I'd say is consult with your doctor, because your doctor will be the one that would obviously give you the best direction pertaining to that. But there are other things that you can do. You have, like I said, you have egg whites, you have fish. You can try different types of bars. They do have different, kind of like candy bars, but they're protein bars that you can use in addition or as a substitute for actually using that type of mix. And then, of course, flushing your system with plenty of water is essential with any diet, regardless if you're using protein shakes or not. It's important that you constantly keep yourself hydrated with water. So, I don't know, did that answer your question?
Yes.
Hopefully this will provide more ideas with proteins here, because like I said, this here gives you egg whites. Cottage cheese is another one that's very high in protein. So I don't know, it depends on if you have a taste for it, because you kind of have to have a taste of cottage cheese.
With peaches. With peaches. It's good.
Usually
Yeah, it
low
does.
fat usually means less trans and less saturated. So yes, you usually want to stick with low fat.
What about yogurt?
Yogurt, low-fat yogurt is healthy as well in the morning. I know, what's the type of yogurt that? Greek yogurt is very good. It's very good for you.
I don't do protein shakes. I used to do protein shakes, but what I do now is muscle milk.
Muscle milk?
Muscle milk. And I take I do the muscle milk light. But you could do either one. They taste really good. And I do it after I work out. So I drink them after I work out. I follow it up with a lot of water, and it generally works. The other thing I find for me in terms of my appetite being an older woman is that as the evening goes on, I get hungry. But the more protein you take in earlier, it makes you full.
Yeah.
That's the other benefit of protein. It makes you feel, it gives you more of a sense of being full for a longer period of time.
Casein actually coats your stomach. Casein protein actually coats your stomach. It gives you more of a sense of being full. Now, you get your protein, where did you get your protein from?
Whatever foods I eat that contain it, because
No, the actual powder.
I would go to
GNC.
Southwest.
This one over here right there on the west.
Yeah.
Up on 95th?
Okay, some of it depend on the actual protein that you use.
Right.
Because there are certain grades that I don't even mess with. You know, there were some, I remember my mom, you remember the older proteins I used to get, I don't touch those anymore. Because they will mess with your stomach, and it could be the amount of whey that they have in them, whether that they have whey isolates, which gets to your muscles quicker, versus whey concentrate. You have to look at that ratio as well. Typically, you want to be with proteins that will have more of a hydrolyzed whey that gets to your muscles quicker, and that would be a better bet for you. Optimum Nutrition has pretty good protein. What was your question?
Ms. Larry, I had a question about water intake. You have different views on that. Some will say eight ounce glasses a day. Some will say half your body weight in ounces. What is your take on how much water we should intake?
Usually, I still go with the 8 ounce glasses per day, which is healthy. But I say that. But if you're taking in protein, and depending on your activity level, it could be more. Because for me, I sweat like crazy. People know me know. So for me, working out, I may lose a lot of water weight.
Right.
So you kind of have to gauge it to yourself. You want to stay hydrated.
Right.
At all times. You want to make sure that you're constantly taking in water. But depending on the type of diet that you're doing, if you are doing a diet with more protein shakes, like my little brother Lee, he probably needs to drink like a good 14 glasses of water per day just to make sure that his kidneys are constantly being flushed because he's taking 2 protein shakes a day. So a lot of it really depends upon your personal diet, but I do recommend 8 ounce glasses per day.
Okay.
I may have a bad question.
There's no bad question.
Do you always have to have egg whites?
Typically, egg yolks are high in cholesterol.
Or what about when you just crack the egg, just the whole egg?
The whole egg has that egg, the yolk in it. And the yolk is very high in cholesterol. So the way that I do it, and when you guys are thinking egg whites, you probably are thinking boiled eggs, or are you thinking about like scrambled egg whites? Scrambled egg whites?
Or poached?
Yeah, you have to get really creative with it. You know, adding a low-fat mozzarella cheese to it, if it's just that nasty. But you have to really get creative with it, because with the high amount of cholesterol that you'll be taking in from the yolk, you might as well not eat the egg. I mean, unless it's like a cheat day, like I said, and you're just eating, you know. And I am an advocate of cheat days. I'm gonna let everybody know that this is a disclaimer, because there are certain days, you know, certain things you may want to eat. You go ahead on that certain day. However, moderation is the key for that. You can't eat that any day. It has to be something that's done in moderation.
And the second question is that the lunch meat, will the meat that's behind the counter, is that considered lunch meat too?
Here's the thing with the lunch meats, and this list, when we talk about lunch meats, turkey is fine. You know, turkey's fine. Typically, the type of meat, lunch meats you should stay away from is like salami. You know, salami is something that's really high, honestly high in sodium. You know, those are typically the type of lunch meats that you want to stay away from. So, but the turkey behind the counter, like deli meat, turkey, is fine. Anyone else have any other questions?
Yes, I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on eating organically or non-organic foods? Or, you know, they tell us about all the pesticides that's
Here,
on the, just regular foods and what. And I know it's more expensive eating organic.
it is very much more expensive. But here's the thing about organic foods. Organic foods are more closer to what we would have been eating years ago, because these are foods that have not been tainted, if you will, with all the chemicals and the preservatives and the hormones and all these different things. So I'd say I would recommend going organic, but it is very expensive. Whole Foods is extremely expensive. However, there are some stores that are starting to carry more organic options. One thing that my mom put me on, we get green beans that are frozen. They're organic, and they're great. You know, there's something that we cook ourselves. However, so I'd recommend, if you can afford it, to go with an organic option, just because of the fact that there are more vitamins and minerals in it, and it is essentially more healthier because you're not being exposed to all of the chemicals and hormones that are being put into foods that we have today right now. So.
And you know, everybody's calling things organic.
Mm-hmm.
So how about someone who has their own garden?
Mm-hmm.
And we know where we live,
Mm-hmm.
it has its own set of
Well, see, here's the thing. You have to just make sure, because people can say that just because someone says they have their own garden doesn't mean that they're growing crops organic.
right.
Because they could be using some sort of fertilizer, pesticides, and things to actually keep bugs away. So, I mean, it's very difficult to grow organic. I went to agricultural high school, so I know it's not easy to grow organic foods. However, if you can find, there are farmers markets that I've seen in some, a lot of times you see them in suburbs, like way off the road. And if you want to go out by Monee and Crete, in that area, I'm sure that on Sundays, Saturdays, they have different stands where you can actually come in and get fresh produce. That's a great idea. Just make sure that they're credible, because you don't want to eat, come home and have a bunch of apples with worms in them, you know, make sure that they're, you know, that they're legitimate, you know, but if you can find that, that is a very cost-effective option to eat organically.
Southtown, they say their stuff is organic.
Sometimes it's expensive too.
I know, everybody's expensive.
And I mean, for most places that are doing organic and are actually making sure that their food is of good quality, yeah, they're gonna charge, because it is difficult and pricey to do it. But the benefits are really out there, you know. And then from my understanding, Costco now is doing more organic foods. So Costco is another good option, another place to consider as well.
Now you mentioned cheat days.
Is that
You mentioned cheat days.
cheat days?
Yes. How many cheat days
Really?
do you suggest?
Really? I suggest one. I suggest one. I say cheat day, weekend. Weekend.
Oh, whole
Weekend.
weekend, oh.
When I have my
One day on the weekend.
one day.
Okay.
And the thing is the thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to set up unrealistic expectations. You know, because here's something, here's a fact. Does anybody know that sugar is the single most addictive substance out there, period? It's more addictive than nicotine. It's more addictive than alcohol. They did a study on the human brain, and sugar activates more parts of the human brain, more than any other drug out there. So there are certain people that can be sugar addicts.
I know, and there's no 12-step program for us.
You don't think we can just stop?
There are alternatives to it. One of the things that I recommend is in the protein, you know, making sure that your proteins have, like my protein, the one that I have, uses Splenda as an alternative to help with that. And then the other thing is making sure that you, like I said, have that healthy balance of those simple carbs and those complex carbs in the morning. You know, by eating the fruit, eating grapes, eating cherries, eating these different things, you'll get your sweet tooth handled in a more healthier, moderate portion, as opposed to going and getting cake, cookies, things like that. So, anybody else have any more questions? Anybody else?
Now, as far as exercise,
Mhm.
What is